Hey everyone, this is Rick Gualtieri, and welcome to another Tales of a Midlist Author. I know a couple weeks back I said that the last one was going to be the last one for 2018, and not really lying. This is more of a year in review. I haven't done one of these in a couple of years, so I figured I was probably due, especially since I'm trying to get this series back on track, and I like to think I've been doing a pretty good job of it. But it's December 31st, so the final day of 2018, and I figured I'd take a look back and see what worked and what didn't work, as well as talk about some of the stuff that I saw overall in the author industry, and discuss a little bit about where I'm going in 2019. So let's start with the author industry. 2018, it was an interesting year. A lot of stuff happened, not some of it good, some of it not so good. I think probably the biggest takeaway, at least for the majority of the indie author group or the indie author industry, is that we've reached that point where I don't think we're necessarily in the boom phase of this industry anymore. The market is kind of maturing. It's definitely saturating, if you will. People are releasing books at a breakneck pace. And it's getting harder and harder for visibility to maintain. So at this point, we've kind of gone away from the whole, anybody can make money from a book to now you got to work for it. So that's probably the biggest takeaway from this year is we are in what I would say a maturing industry, and people are people are trying to get visibility every which way you can. Some of it good, some of it not so good. But the days of just saying, "Hey, I'm going to write a book," and and where's my check? Honestly, they were never here, but they're definitely not here now. So you have to be smart about this business. Probably one of the big things that happened in 2018 was the Cockeygate scandal, and this stands out as both a tale of, well, let's be honest, arrogance, as well as a tale of community, because the unique thing here was seeing almost the entire publishing industry, and we're talking indie and trad pub, come together and basically say, okay, if you want to trademark your specialized series, hey, Bob's Venusian Sex Dungeon, hey, go nuts. But if you want to just grab parts of that, common words, and just be oh, I own Sex Dungeon, no. The author industry pretty much as a whole kind of looked and said, trademarks have their point, but using them as weaponized marketing tactics, that's not one of them. So that was probably a huge takeaway from this year, and hopefully the lesson sticks. I know there's still plenty of people trying to pick up trademarks for things they probably shouldn't have, but the industry as a whole kind of came together and said, no, we are not going to stand for that, which was pretty awesome to see. Along those same lines of things not being tolerated, Amazon started cracking down on a few items. Notoriously stuffing. I think I talked about this in a previous Tales of a Midlist Author. The idea being that you have 10 books, and basically you put out 10 different bundles with each of those books in different orders and stuff, just to kind of double dip in Kindle Unlimited. And Amazon finally, after essentially watching the romance genre just get clobbered with this, pretty much came back and said, no, you're not allowed to do it, which a lot of us felt was well overdue. And that, and as well as some other stuff, led to another thing, which is still kind of, being talked about, which is there were a lot of account bannings on Amazon. Amazon just basically went through and cleaned some house and basically said, hey, if we think you're manipulating Kindle Unlimited, you're out of here. And they were pretty heavy. I mean, they pretty much looked and said to some people that, no, you are not too big to fail. Now, I'm not going to say no innocents got caught up in this, because that's really kind of beyond the scope of this. But, the reality is it's kind of hard to tell who's innocent, who's not, because everybody's proclaiming their innocence of, oh, I didn't do anything, I don't know why I got banned. And so it's kind of hard to tell, who got caught up unfairly in this versus, well, who probably deserved to go. But regardless, the fact of the matter is that there are, there are some faces who were at the beginning of 2018 who are no longer on the store at the end of 2018. And, well, at least under the same pen names, if you will. And I guess the lesson there is, one, keep your nose clean. Two, don't take shortcuts. Don't Definitely don't do black hat tactics, but maybe like think twice about those gray hat tactics. And I think also the important thing is watch who you get into bed with. Whether it's marketing, newsletter swaps, what have you. You don't want your author brand being tainted by somebody who could potentially take you down. And also, along with that, there was some scary stuff. I know near the end of the year, there's been a couple articles about, like, how in other industries people are using Amazon's rules to get their, like, their opponents kicked off the website. And let's be honest, there's some unscrupulous players in the author industry. I have no doubt as we move into 2019, there are going to be people trying that, along the lines of, well, hey, if I talk to a Chinese click farm and have them aimed at your books, you'll get kicked out, and you're in my genre. That'll just make my, like, ship rise higher. Hopefully not, but I know we're going to see that, because there are plenty of scumbags in this. And hopefully you're not one of them. If you are, I don't know why you're watching this series, but I'm just saying something to, like, keep an eye out for. It's getting harder and harder to stretch. A lot of people are noticing it's getting harder and harder to stretch those marketing dollars. Whether you're using AMS, Amazon's marketing arm, Facebook, BookBub, there's, like, kind of less bang for the buck out there. A lot of people are competing for the same slots, and it really comes down to marketing smarter versus anything. Although some people are, like, are taking the, like, mindset of, hey, let me just throw tons of money out there so I just blow out the competition, and that also is, like, one thing of doing it. And, like, if you don't have tons of money, it kind of, well, sucks to be you. That said, there's also tons of gurus out there offering master classes in just about every form of marketing you can imagine. Before you take any class, just, like, be smart about it. Look somebody up, make sure that they actually know what you're talking about. That being said, I think kind of the downside that I'm seeing there is, and this is just rumor, things I've heard, like, kind of like under the table. But the rumor there is that, like, a lot of the even, like, the legit gurus are kind of doing the whole, well, here's how you make money, but they're not really kind of giving you the full scope. It's kind of like they're doing the Kung Fu Master thing of, like, I'm going to show you most of my martial arts, but I'm going to keep a few special moves. I'm going to keep, like, the 5-finger palm of death to myself, because, otherwise it'll just get out there and ruin it for me. So keep that also in mind when you're, like, when you're spending your dollars, is sometimes you might, and again, I'm not, like, pointing fingers at anybody or so, but I'm just saying what I've heard is that in some cases, what somebody is telling you is, here is my set proven system. Behind the scenes, that might not necessarily be true. So, do that as you will. That's why I'm just saying, be smart before you, like, plunk down hundreds of dollars for a class, and just do your research. Ask around. There's plenty of other stuff that hit the industry in 2018, but I think those are kind of the main takeaways. As I said, Amazon finally, doing a little policing of their rules. That's a good thing. The author industry coming together against Copygate, I think, was an awesome thing. The fact that the industry is saturated and it's getting harder and harder, especially. And this also brings to mind another thing we're seeing is, like, rapid release more and more seems to be kind of taking over the industry. I'm on tons of boards where people are like, well, okay, my goal for 2019 is to, like, just release a book every 2 weeks or so. And it's like, damn. And the other thing you're kind of seeing is, I guess, I won't even say the beginnings, but you're starting to see little author empires where, people are basically saying, okay, come in, write in my world, I'll get a cut of it, and, we'll build it up that way. So we can rapid release in this series and expand upon this universe. So you're seeing a lot of that. I'm not necessarily sure that's for the good or the bad. I'm of the mindset that I look at the comic book industry, which I can kind of learn that lesson that if that too much of a good thing eventually will cause the market to collapse. So something to keep in mind there, but at the same time, it makes it harder for everybody else. I'm not saying rapid releasers are bad or people doing the author empires are bad. I'm just saying that I think it might be a worrying trend for the industry going forward, just like, something to look forward there. Personally, I've always been a mindset of quality over quantity. I'm not saying rapid releasers are releasing garbage. Before we say that, I think some are, don't get me wrong, but I think there's plenty out there who are able to rapid release and keep quality up. But I know my personal thing has always been, I want to release the best book I can, not the fastest book I can. So that's probably a good segue to my 2018, stepping away from the author industry. So This was probably the most prolific year I've had since starting. I had a grand total of 8 releases. I'm not going to call that rapid release because it kind of was front ended during the first half of the year. And like eight is huge for me, but I don't think it falls under that whole release a book a month. And also, that said, of my releases, I had 2 novellas, one in an anthology. I had 3 shingles books, which are also novellas, but it's part of the shingles series by the Authors and Dragons group. And by the way, those are a lot of fun to write. I released Bill the Vampire #1, which was a comic book. So bucket list item there. I'm able to say, hey, I'm a comic book writer, producer, if you will. And I also released 2 full-length novels, Get Bent, which is the hybrid of High Moon Book 1, and the long and awaited Devil Hunters, which is Book 2 in my Crypto Hunter tales. And even better, that came so long overdue. I think it was like 5 or 6 years. But the upside is it's out there, and even better, people seem to like it. I didn't just finish it to finish it. I finished it to make it as good as I can, and that seems to have paid off. A lot of people. In fact, I've gotten a decent amount of feedback saying, "Hey, they like it better than the first one," which blows my mind. But I think it's kind of awesome. So that is the good. Well, okay. Let's move on. Other stuff before we get into the bad. I've also I also am working with my cover designer Mallory Rock on another cover series rebranding for the Tomabill. I love the original the last series of covers I did. Branding wise, they are awesome. But one, they've been out there for about 3 years, and I thought it was time for a change. And I wanted something that was a little more representative of urban fantasy than I think the existing covers gave. A little more photorealistic or character driven than what I had out there. Personal preference. Not to say there was anything wrong with those. Just it comes down to what I like in a cover, and these new covers are kind of like closer to really just how I like to see it. And let's see here. I attended 2 conferences. I went to Con Carolinas, which was awesome, especially with the A&D guys. And I was guest of honor at WivaCon, so that was a first, being a guest of honor. Smaller con, but I had a lot of fun. The people down there were really awesome. It was really just a great weekend all in all. I'm hoping to do more conventions in 2019. And my Facebook group, Team TwatWaffle, that really expanded. We have over 1,500 people in it. It's super busy. It's probably one of the busiest author groups you're going to see with regards to, In fact, I really can't call it an author or reader group at this point. I have to call it a community, just because it's grown so far beyond just my stuff. People talk about all sorts of things there. Other authors come in and talk about their stuff. There's a lot of sharing, a lot of caring in it, and a lot of joking. So as far as that goes, it might not be the biggest reader community out there, but it is definitely one of the most active. And this year, we expanded things. We have had a couple awesome holiday programs out there to put some smiles on people's faces. Really can't say anything bad about that. So that was kind of my year. From the negative, there's definitely some lessons to be learned there. That comic book, as much fun as it was to do, it's definitely a muddy pit. And let's be honest, I'm probably, unless it gets picked up by a publisher, it probably won't see an issue 2, only because, I kind of overestimated how some of the markets would do there, and it did do pretty well in some. But I know when I got to Comixology, I thought it was all right, these are the big guys for comic books, and I put it on there, and the sales numbers came back, and it was like, no, I guess they aren't. It just turned out to be a black hole. So downside there. What are you gonna do? I guess financially wise, 2018 was not a kind year. Sales are still good, especially for Tomabill. Sales for Devil Hunters were good. Same with Get Bent. But definitely a massive downturn from 2017. So that's a concern. And my marketing spend and other stuff is probably way up comparatively. So profit wise, this one is coming in at the wire, with regards to that. So that's something that's definitely a concern going into 2019. That's probably the biggest concern for the year is just that, you know, for somebody like me who I won't say I write slow, I write relatively quickly, but I edit slow because I find my process just works for me. I'm not going to change my process to lower quality just so I can release faster. I want to put out the best books I can. So from a short term, I think that kind of hurts, especially with all the rapid releasers I'm out against, where somebody's like, hey, I launched a series. I'm launching a new series this week, and I'm finishing the series in 2 weeks. That definitely hurts in the short term. I think in the long term, we'll see. My goal has always been, if I can't make a book evergreen, make it as evergreen as possible, which is that, I want a book that I put out today. I don't want it to just be there in Kindle Unlimited for a month and then move on to the next one. I want you to keep buying that book, or, well, not you, but in general. I want that book to keep selling for years to come. So we'll see if that makes sense from a long term. But from a short term, it definitely kind of hurts a bit. So awesome year for productivity. I'll say that. Also awesome year for doing new stuff. Not awesome year for for finances, and also marketing. I'll say I am in a better position ending my marketing than I was at the start of the year, because at the start of the year my brain kind of fizzled and I kind of just turned off most of my marketing, kind of hoping to retool it, and that retool just took longer than I thought it was. The only upside is that I'm ending the year, I think, from a marketing standpoint, with my stuff stronger than it was at the beginning. So that is a good thing. It's just that over the course of the year, it's been a struggle. So take it as you will. I'm still standing. I'm still producing, and the good thing is I'm learning, and learning is key. Is that when I mentioned before that there's nothing wrong with failure, as long as you learn something. So that's what I've been trying to do for getting ready for 2019. So that said, we talked about author industry and my stuff for 2018. Let's look forward to 2019 and what are some stuff that I'm going to do. Well, first of all, my first lesson, I think, was I definitely need to stay in my lane. The early part of 2018 and also in a lot of 2017, I kind of ventured out of my lane to try new stuff, which was awesome. Don't get me wrong. But from a business standpoint, it probably maybe wasn't the best decision. So I'm trying to pull back, trying to do less new books, or I won't say new, less number ones in series, and build onto what I have. So funnels is the next lesson. Putting out Devil Hunters was an awesome thing. Moving into 2019, I have 2 books that are almost ready to go. I have Bent Out of Shape, which is the sequel to Get Bent. So building onto my funnels. I do have a number 1, but it's a sequel series. It's called Strange Days, Bill of the Dead Book 1, and is the start of a sequel series to Tomabill. So technically first in a series, but building upon that world. I'm also working with author R.E. Carr on Second String Savior, which is hopefully the first book, I think, in a trilogy that's set in the Tomabill universe. So I am expanding my works, as I mentioned before, the concept of writing in an owned universe. The only thing there is I'm not looking to necessarily do rapid release. I want to make sure that this is something that comes out there, the quality is maintained, they're good stories, and each one has their has their moment to shine. I definitely don't want to saturate my my marketplace there. I want to make sure that every book comes out, people are anticipating it. So that is one thing. So it's kind of looking at what others are doing and saying, okay, from a short term, what they're doing is really smart, but I want to do it from a long term standpoint. And I think and I think ramping down the speed and upping the and making the point to put that emphasis on that, making each book the best it can. I think from a long term standpoint, that's the key there. We'll see if that pans out or not, but that's always been my philosophy. I want to put out quality over quantity. And again, not saying others aren't. I'm just saying that's my personal thing. So, funnels, expanded properties. I will be doing more shingles books. I do have at least 2 ideas for this year. We'll see how that goes. I'll probably start working on that. The shingles books are relatively short. They're about 25,000 words. So, and they are building upon that expanded world that I'm working with the Authors and Dragons guys. And that's the other thing, is continue to work with them. They are awesome. Continue to grow that brand, Authors and Dragons, which I think we're all excited about. We have a fun time with it. There's a lot of opportunity, and we have that muscle of basically working as a group as opposed to individually. So Definitely more Authors and Dragons stuff coming. And I definitely want to continue trying to market more smartly, trying to spread that marketing dollar as far as I can. Which I'll admit, one thing I got caught up in 2018, which was Kindle Unlimited. And the problem with Amazon marketing is you can't track borrows. So you kind of have to do the assumption thing. And the problem is, I think that led me to like leave unprofitable ads running longer than they really should have. And I'm trying to like pull back and be like, okay, if I can't tell if an ad is profitable, then rather than assuming and like being afraid to kill it, I just need to kill it and move on and try something else. So it's trying to be bolder and less hesitant with my marketing. And at the beginning of last year, I started a program in my Facebook group called the Fat Waffle Challenge. It's Team TwatWaffle. That's why hence the name. But I'd say for 8 or 9 months out of the year, I was kicking ass at that. I was lifting weights downstairs. I was getting in good shape. Then when we hit like October, I basically just like dropped it, and I like and I've been like subsisting on like on cookies, and you probably can see that in my face or so. So starting hopefully, I won't say tomorrow because there's a bit of a flood in my basement right now, but in early January, I want to kick off the Fat Waffle Challenge again and kick my ass back into shape, because I also know that physically, when I feel better, mentally it helps a lot up here. So that's probably my final thing for 2019. As for what to expect book-wise, for those of you who are readers, I already mentioned Bent Out of Shape and Strange Days. Those are almost ready to go. They're both on their way to Megan for editing. I'm expecting late January, at the worst, early February releases for both of them. Stay tuned. Outside of that, as I said, I have a couple shingles ideas I'm going to start working on. One I'm going to start working on pretty soon. Second String Savior that I'm working on with Ari Carr is queued up, so I'm going to start hammering on that as well, so we can polish that up and get it out there. So that'll probably be, I won't say January, but February, March would be my guess, but we'll see how that goes. It's a long book. That's probably the first quarter of the year. After that, well, let's see here. I'm kind of like, it's interesting in that I want to stick with funnels, as I mentioned before, but I'm trying to like decide what funnels to stick with, because I have a lot of fun stuff that's out there. I would love to get Kraken Hunters, which is the third and probably final book in the Crypto Hunters series. I already have that started. I'd love to get that finished and out there. The final, well, actually, I won't say final book. Originally, I was planning the Hybrid of High Moon series to be a trilogy, but now that might move to 4 or 5 books because I'm really enjoying writing in that world. But the third book, Bent on Destruction, I definitely want to dive into that. And the second book in Bill of the Dead, I am really, really looking forward to, because Bill of the Dead, much like Bill the Vampire, is kind of a small, intimate story about one guy in a larger world than he is, but it's mostly focused on his struggles. But it opens the door for some really awesome stuff, I think. And I have some really fun plans for the next installment in that series. Unnamed yet. I'll come up with a name as we go, but it's just a matter of prioritizing which one is next. So I have at least 3 series that I'm super excited about. 4 if you count Midnight's Daughter. I would love to do Midnight's Legacy. Only thing there is that's a book that's slightly out of my lane, so I might just step back from that and be like, all right, this maybe we'll put this on the back burner until I'm ready for it. As much fun as I had writing Midnight's Daughter, so that's kind of a dark horse maybe for 2019. But those 3 I mentioned, Kraken Hunters, Bent Out of Shape, Bent on Destruction, and the second book in Bill of the Dead. Those are the ones competing for my attention probably for the first half of the year, and we'll see how that goes. All right, that is my 2018 year in review. Definitely was not a boring year. I'll say that much. Can't call it a great year, but I definitely feel that I'm moving into 2019 a little bit smarter than I was. So the idea there is just keep doing what I'm doing, keep building upon it, make smarter decisions, and hopefully end 2019 stronger than I am starting it. And there you have it. All right. My name is Rick Gualtieri. I am wishing you a happy new year. You know, however your 2018 started off, kick it to the side and start 2019 on a high note. And we'll see where this industry takes us, this roller coaster of a business. I don't know about you guys, but I am definitely excited to see what happens next. Talk to you soon.